What's up, everybody? Welcome to this training on putting your property under contract. In this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about the specific components that make a contract. And a pro tip, whenever I'm dealing with buyers and sellers and anybody else, I never call it a contract. I just call it the paperwork. Like, I'm always like, well, let's get the paperwork out of the way. Because whenever you hear the word contract, it's always like, there's like a negative stigma to it. It's like, oh no, a commitment or the DirecTV or phones back in the day. But I always call it the paperwork. So this is going to be how you put a property under contract and the specific components. Now, I'm I'm not going to share with you on this video a specific contract. Now, if you go into our group, you're going to find the templates of an off-market purchase agreement that you can use. But what I want you guys to get familiar with is just everything that needs to be a part of this agreement, because if you're selling the house, or if you're buying a house or you're selling the house, and a realtor is representing you, the realtor might use a board of realtors certified contract, or another wholesaler might want to use their contract, or whatever it is. So the most important thing I want you guys to take away from this is just understanding important things that need to be a part of the contract. All right, so very, very important. The takeaway is just understanding the key components of a contract. So here's a few things. What is a contract? Well, it's a legal document with terms and conditions for the sale of a house in this case. Now, what is a fully executed contract? Well, a fully executed contract is when both parties, the buyer and seller, have both signed the paperwork. So this is really important, especially a lot of new people. I see a lot of people get really excited. Now, you guys find a property that you've negotiated with a seller, and you feel like you're going to get to the finish line. You're getting really close, and then you go to get the paperwork together, and you're like, I've signed my side of the contract. The seller has their side. Now they just have to sign theirs, and when I get it, and then we got a deal. But guys, you got to understand that until both parties have signed this paperwork, it is not legally binding. You do not have an executed purchase agreement. You do not have a deal that you can wholesale. You do not have a deal that you can shop to other people, or a deal that you can close on. It's so, so, so important for you to understand that you have to have the purchase agreement signed by both parties, both you as the buyer or the seller, and or by the other side, the buyer or the seller on the other side. So please, please, please understand that. It's so important to make sure you have a fully executed contract before you go forward doing anything. All right. Again, it's very important. Never, ever, ever market a property unless you have a fully signed agreement. You don't have a deal until you have a fully signed contract. I cannot make that clear enough. These are the key components of every piece of paperwork, every single contract. All right, if you guys have to screenshot this and check it off as you go to make sure whatever you're signing or whatever you're working on has these, do that. But please, please, please make sure you include all of this. Number one is an address. Number two is the price. Number three is the earnest money, or EM, or down payments. Number four is the type of financing. Is it cash? Is it conventional? What does that look like? The next one is what title company will be handling this transaction. The next one is what inspections look like. How long do you have to conduct inspections? What happens after the inspections are conducted? Is there a negotiation phase? What does that look like? The next one is what is included in the sale of the property. If the house has tons of furniture in it, or a car in the driveway, or whatever, will you take it as is, or do you expect the seller to get rid of it all? Like what is that? What's a part of it? Are the appliances staying? Are the TVs staying? What does that look like? Really important. And all of this stuff, guys, is all negotiable. So go back, and really understand the negotiation part of this, because all of this is negotiable. The next is the closing date. When are you going to take possession of the property? Are there inspections? Again, it's important. It's in there twice, apparently. And then the name that you're going to be taking the title, the property under. So your LLC's name, and if you don't have that set up yet, you can put TBD, and then get that to the title company. But just some name there of who's taking possession of the property. So first of all, address and parcel number. So yes, it is very important to have both in there, and I'll tell you why. Number one is the address is the address, right? That's like the front facing thing. But if you want to go behind the scenes to the auditor site and you look and you want to see what the parcel number is, because not all the time, and it's happened, does the parcel number and the address match up. You need to make sure those two things match up because the parcel is what is going to transfer, not just the address. And another thing on the flip side, which is a bonus, is sometimes one address might have two parcels. So you could be getting extra land and you want to make sure you're getting everything involved. Everything that's a part of that address needs to be part of that transaction. So always include the address and always include the parcel number. Super, super important. Next, it's the price. What do you guys agree on? $50,000, $100,000, whatever it is. Always write down the price on your purchase agreement. Seems like a no-brainer, but just don't forget it. Next is the earnest money or down payment. Now, there's a couple differences. Earnest money is the amount of money that you put down to show that you're serious about purchasing a property, also known as a good faith deposit. Now, a lot of times earnest money is refundable. So if for some reason the inspection period doesn't pan out, if you have one, and or for some reason if the financing blows up or whatever, you get that earnest money back as long as it's all done within the due diligence period, aka your inspection period. Now, on the flip side of that is your down payment. Now, when I was wholesaling, I've done over 1,000 deals. We sold our properties 100% as is, which meant you're putting $2,000 down on this property, and that it's non-refundable. Like if your financing blows up, if something happens, we keep that $2,000. And nowadays, people are charging more than $2,000 for down payments. So, just really, really important to know the difference of what you're signing up for. In either instance, I would 100% give it to a title company, preferably one that you've worked with before and one that you have a relationship with. So, and if you don't have a title company, you don't have a relationship with one, get one. Build your team. Super important. Find a title company and build your team. Let them know what you're doing, and make them the intermediary. You want to have a title company hold the earnest money or down payment for you when it comes to buying or selling any of these properties. Financing. How is the property going to be paid for? Is it going to be cash? And here's the deal with cash, guys. Cash can come in a lot of different ways. Cash can be a hard money lender, is also considered cash. A private money lender, a home equity line of credit, a and just wiring cash can come as cash. That's one of the ways that we like to buy these. That's how it comes as cash. The other ways are FHA or fine or a conventional. It just depends. But typically, 99% of the way that we're going to buy them is going to be using OPM, other people's money, in the form of cash, whether a hard money lender, private money lender, self-directed IRA, or just cash. So those are a couple things to keep in mind there. The next one is the title company, who will be handling the closing. Well, just like I said earlier, um, whenever you guys have to put some earnest money or down payment money out, you just want to give it to the title company. The title company is going to be the people that you give this purchase agreement to next. The second you have a fully executed purchase agreement, this needs to go to the title company so they can start running a title search on the property. There it is, title. Inspection period. A inspection period is a period of time for the buyer to do due diligence. Pro tip, always use business days. Now, for me, I'm going to try to push them out as long as I possibly can. Hey, I'm going to do 30-day inspection periods, 45-day inspection periods, and always say business days so it gives you extra time. Now, guys, if you tell them 45 days for inspection periods and they're like, "Well, what do you mean? Why do you need 45 days?" And something simple as like this word track like, "Hey, I just like to have up until closing, or I just like to have X amount of time just in case the property got vandalized or broken into or something happened to the property, because I do expect you to deliver the property to me the exact way I see it today at closing in 45 days. And this inspection period just gives me the reassurance to know that you're not going to go out there and take all the copper, or you're not going to go take the furnace, or fill in the blank's going to happen. Does that sound fair? Now, guys, you see what I'm saying? How it's like we posture ourselves and we speak with conviction and we speak with honesty because it is the truth. But it also If we're wholesaling it, it gives us time to find the buyer. And it goes back to, like I say 1,000 times, don't just contract stuff just to contract it. Make sure we are buying things at prices that make sense for us to sell on the back end. So inspections, I always like to use business days. I think it's super important. Um, how will the house be delivered? Again, what's included? This goes back to the inspection period. Hey, they're gonna have it trashed out. Hey, the tenants are gonna be moved out. This is gonna happen here. There's gonna be no appliances. There's gonna be appliances. Like, what's included in the sale? Just everything. And you cannot get too granular, guys. Make sure you outline every single thing. I need you to be detailed, because the last thing you want to have happen is there be assumptions, and then you get to closing, and then something's not what you expect. You guys thought that the tenant was going to be moved out before closing, but the owner thought that you were okay closing then moving them out. But listen, there is no confusion if it's documented on the purchase agreement. And I can tell you right now, if you're buying a property with a tenant in it and you're inheriting somebody, you can plan on evicting them, because 9 times out of 10 they're not going to be moved out. So always keep that in mind, and always check with your local laws, guys, your local state laws and your city laws about what the process is to evict a tenant. It is different. I cannot tell you what I do in Cincinnati, and that will not apply to Buffalo. That will not apply to St. Louis. It is very important for you guys to understand your laws in those areas that you're buying these houses from, especially when inheriting tenants. Next is the closing date. Hey, what is the date the property will transfer ownership? This is the day where money exchanges. We go to the title company, I wire my side, the seller collects their side, or I wholesale, whatever the transaction looks like. Watch the videos for that. But this is the date that I'm going to close on the property. Super, super important. Have a closing date out there. My advice to you guys is this. I like to put closing dates out far. I'll put them 6 months in advance, 6 months out, maybe even longer if I feel like I need to. But I like to put them out 6 months. Well, why 6 months? Well, because I don't want to have to keep going back to a homeowner to get extensions on a contract. So whenever the contract, say we put this contract out for a week, we'll say a week from now the title is still not clear, and the title company is still doing their work. Well, after the closing date that is on this contract, it's also the expiration date. So that means after 7 days, I don't have an agreement to buy this house anymore. So I need to go back to the homeowner and say, hey, will you sign this piece of paper, this extension, extending our contract that we signed 7 days ago, so that we can extend it another week to give the title company more time to do the title work. So instead of having to do that, this is what I do. I tell, hey, homeowner, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this close date out about 6 months. So it's January 1st. I'm going to set the close date out for June 6th. Now, of course, I want to close. We all want to close before June 6th, right? And again, make sure you talk to your sellers and you understand that they do want to close, like when they want to close and what that looks like, what their motivation is. But in this scenario, hey, I know I'm going to put it out for June 6th, for June, and I know that seems like a long time, but here's the thing: is I just don't want to have to keep coming back to you if there's some kind of defect on the title or if there's some kind of encumbrance on the title. So I'm just going to put this agreement out for to June for 6 months. But here's what I want to do. Here's what I'm willing to do, just so you know I'm very serious about buying this house. Now remember, write this down, guys. This is very, very important. This needs to be in your purchase agreements, even if you write it down on an addendum or somewhere else. Listen, so just so I'm serious about purchasing the property. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write something in here that says that I will close within within 7 days or 10 days. I will close within 10 days of a clean and clear marketable title. Period. Okay? Listen. Buyer and seller agrees that buyer will close within 10 days of a clean and clear marketable title. So, that means that my closing date that's out 6 months is out 6 months, just in case there's title issues, just in case we got to track down brothers, families, next of kin, whoever, right? Just in case we got to track down whoever. But listen, I'm desperate. I want to buy this house so bad. But this is just there so I don't have to bug you for extensions. But you can see by this phrase right here, It means that the second we get a clear title and the clear to close from the title company, I'll close in 10 days. Does that sound fair? Does that make sense? Cool. Awesome. Boom. That right there, guys, is a game changer. It's really important. It lets you know that the property that you're going to take possession of is free and clear. It's marketable, and then the person selling it can actually sell it. So, name again. Let's kind of hit that a second ago. Name, guys, it's really important. Make sure whoever's name is on the deed signs the contract, signs the paperwork. Okay, make sure everybody does. And listen, if you're doing an estate deal where there's siblings or there's this and that, get everybody to sign. Get every sibling to sign the paperwork. And if they're married, get their husband and wife, get both parties to sign the paperwork. Some states require that, some states don't. It's just good habit. Just get everybody to sign it, so that way everybody's on the same page. I think it's really, really important to do that, so that way you don't have to go back and dot the i's and cross the t's, especially when you guys have already been in that moment and everybody's excited and or emotional or whatever about getting rid of the house. So make sure that whoever is signing it, the paperwork, and his name's on it, can actually sell the house, and get all siblings on there, and also get husband and wife on there too. So at that point, once both parties have signed everything, you have now a fully executed contract. The next thing you're going to do with that contract, that paperwork, is you're going to send that to the title company. I love to send an intro email. Hey, Linda attaches the paperwork for 123 Maple. I've copied Ruth, the seller, on here. Her number is XYZ. We want to close this. ASAP. Please let me know whenever the title work comes back, or let Ruth know if you need anything. Boom, super simple. And then I'll call the title company on my own on the side sometimes and just be like, hey, Linda, I'm wholesaling this. Like, can you slow roll it a little bit sometimes, or can you help me out with this, or whatever? Like, I mean, that's just the truth sometimes. But a lot of times I'll have people matched up here and there with it. Next, if you're gonna wholesale it, now you have the right to start marketing it. So it's again on the paperwork, or now you have a fully executed contract. You're gonna start marketing now that you have that. Next is filling out your pre-acquisition checklist, line up your contractors if you're keeping it, and do not start on the home until you are 100% closed. I don't care what anybody says. Do not swing a hammer. Don't do anything in that house until you're 100% closed, please. And that right there are my tips for filling out this purchase agreement. Now, this is, again, like I said, is like a general one. Make sure that all these components are in there, and even taking it a step further in the paperwork, just writing something too, if you do plan on wholesaling it, that just says that buyer has a right to market subject property, as long as the seller nets purchase price, what, 55,000, 100,000, or whatever it is. So, guys, I hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions, please bring them to a call, and let's crush it. You're gonna get good at this. You're gonna get better at this. I promise. You just gotta put the work in, and it's not always easy, but I can promise you it's 1,000% worth it. You got it.